friends, and welcome back to With Family Fit. It is a sleepy and cold Sunday night here in Texas. I apologize in advance for the terrible audio because my husband is watching the Cowboys game in overtime, so neither here nor there. I should probably just wait to start this video until the game's over. For those of you that are new to our channel, welcome to With Family Fit. My name is Abby. My husband Brent and I have lost 65 pounds each on the Optavia 5-in-1 program, and we are Optavia coaches walking you along the path to get healthy. So we're glad you're here. Tonight I'm going to talk about creating your own lean and green recipe based on your current favorites. So it's not that hard to create a lean and green recipe, and I kind of want to walk you guys through how to do it because I know it can seem super overwhelming. There's plenty of options out there online in your group that your coach has added to you on Facebook and the support group, the lean and green groups, but I want to empower you guys to be able to create your own recipe, and I want to show you how to do it using the Optavia guide and the Optavia condiment list, both of which are linked in the description box below. Okay, so this is actually going to be a recipe for chili that I'm editing from a family favorite recipe, but I'm going to use my Optavia guide and the condiment list to show you how you can create your own recipes for whatever you want. So on page 18 of the guide is going to show you at the most very basic level your leanest, lean, and leaner options. Okay, so whenever you're forming a recipe, you're going to decide how much protein you're going to use and how many servings it's going to be first. Okay, so I want this chili to make 6 servings. I have 2 pounds of 96.4 ground beef, so this is going to count as a leaner. You would know if you looked at your leaner chart on here that you're going to need 6 ounces per person. Well, I know that I want to use Greek yogurt, like sour cream, and cheese to top my chili because what's chili without the additions? So I'm going to leave 2 ounces of my 6-ounce lean for toppings. So for 6 servings, I'm going to do 4 ounces of this lean ground beef per serving for a total of 24 ounces. And you might say, but Abby, you have 2 pounds. We actually weigh cooked meat, not raw. So I know that this 1 pound of meat is actually gonna cook down to be about 12 ounces per pound, 24 ounces, 4 ounces each for 6 servings. Step number 1 when creating a lean and green recipe is to decide on your servings and figure out how much protein you're gonna use. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and get that ground beef into a pan. I do not like to use my healthy fat in my recipes generally because I do a lot of almond milk in my Optavia diet, so that's usually where my healthy fat comes from in a day. So I'm just gonna pop my ground beef in a heating Dutch oven, actually. Sorry for the screaming. I'm a mom of 6, for those of you that didn't know. It's always louder around here. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of Pam spray just so it doesn't stick when I go ahead and put the veggies in. I'm gonna go ahead and break this up. If you don't have this Pampered Chef meat breaking up tool, it is a lifesaver, and I think it makes perfectly crumbled ground meat when you cook it, so that's awesome. So the next step that you're gonna do is calculate your veggies. So at the very most basic level, I like to include all of my veggies that I'm gonna need for full 6 complete lean and green servings because I don't like to serve any veggies on the side. So normally with chili, you would think like tomatoes, beans, all of that. So bear with me on the math here because I want to equip you to be able to figure out your own lean and greens. So for everything except for like lettuce and spinach, you need half a cup to count as 1 green. For each person, you need 3 greens. So for each serving, you're going to need 1.5 cups of vegetables. So I'm making 6 servings. Simple math will tell you that that's 9 cups of vegetables that I'm going to need to create this large pot of chili that's going to make 6 complete lean and greens. So what I'm choosing to do is use the traditional tomatoes for a good portion of my serving. So I'm gonna do a 28-ounce can of tomatoes, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, a 14.5 ounce of fire roasted. The fire roasted makes all the difference, get fire roasted tomatoes, and then a 10-ounce can of these chili and diced tomatoes. That is gonna be 6 cups of my veg. The other 3 cups are gonna come from some rather non-traditional chili ingredients, but it's a good way to sneak some veg in there and make you have good texture without missing the beans. So I'm gonna do a half a cup each of celery and bell pepper, and then 6 tablespoons of onions, and that's gonna go into the ground beef, which is what brings me to my next point of condiments. We already talked about how I was not adding any healthy fat to this, even though I know I'm using a leaner and I can do healthy fat. I'm saving that for my almond milk and my coffee. But the celery, the onions, and the peppers, I want to cook down with the meat. Now, white onion does not count as a vegetable on program, but it can count as a condiment. So I am using 1 condiment per person of my lean and green allowance for 6 tablespoons of onions. So that went into my pot with half a cup of bell pepper and half a cup of celery to make 1 cup of veg. And then my last 2 cups of veg, if you're keeping count, that was up to 7. My last 2 cups are gonna come from 1 cup of zucchini and 1 cup of yellow squash, which is still gonna give it a great texture. Okay, let's go back to our condiments list, which is the last piece of a lean and green. So you have your protein component, your veggie component, and then your condiment component. We already talked about onions being 1 condiment per person for 6 servings. Now, let's talk about chili mix. Okay, I made a big boo-boo. This particular chili mix from Aldi has 6 grams of carbs per serving. Way too much, okay? We should not be using chili mix that has that kind of serving, because remember, condiments have 1 gram of carbs or less per serving. What I'm gonna do to salvage this is I don't have any regular chili powder. I should have bought regular, they didn't have it. I bought this, I didn't check carbs, my fault. So I'm warning you, don't do the same thing I did, but regular chili powder does not have those kind of carbs. So that would be your ideal goal, is to use regular chili powder. But since I don't have any, I'm gonna use half of this package, okay? So this container, if I were to pour the whole thing in, it would have 24 grams of carbs. That's way too much. I'm gonna use half of this package, which would be 12 grams of carbs, split up into 6 servings is 2 grams per serving. That's not gonna be enough to season all my meat though. So I'm gonna make sure I use some ground pepper, some crushed red pepper, and some of this salt-free Southwest seasoning. All of these are 0 calories and 0 carbs. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some of those in to help with the flavor to fix my boo-boo. But like I said, you would rather just get plain chili powder or a chili mix that doesn't have carbs. This one has flour in it, I think, to thicken it up a bit, so that's the problem. Not technically on plan. I'm in a pinch tonight, so I'm gonna use, like I said, only half to make sure I don't go over on my carb count, because carbs and sugar are what we're worried about. Now, I will also say this on the risk of sounding, I don't know, off kilter maybe, I don't count pepper as a condiment. It has no calories and no carbs, and I use a moderately reasonable amount. Now, if it has salt, sugar, or carbs, and it's a spice, I count it. If it's onion powder, pepper, garlic powder, something with not salt, sugar, or carbs, I don't personally count it as a condiment, but I know that your condiment guide tells you to do so. So that's a personal preference. So I'm gonna season this meat. I'm gonna dump all the tomatoes, all the veggies in, and I'm just gonna let this cook for about 30 minutes on low. You can always add a little bit of water or chicken broth if you need to thin it down. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you how I top it. And if you guys have any questions about the math or figuring out your own lean and green, I would love for you to ask in the comments below. As always, your Optavia coach is your best resource, so you can definitely ask them questions too. All right, y'all, so here is what my, losing my ring light. Here is what my chili looks like right now. I'm just gonna put the lid to my Dutch oven on. I'm gonna set the timer for 30 minutes. I got a little helper changing the light sources over here. And we're gonna let this simmer for about 30 minutes. And Brenner, please don't touch that. And then I'll show you how to serve it up. My other big recommendation for you guys is to go ahead and individually scoop it into your 6 equal servings, because that's how you know you got a complete lean and green times 6 for your math that you did. All right, guys, so it has been 30 minutes and my chili is done. I want to show you guys how I serve this up, so don't mind my mismatched bowls. But you're gonna want to do equal portions in each bowl and go ahead and serve it all up so you're not guessing. The other important thing to think about when doing soup is to make sure you get equal amounts of broth versus meat and veggies in each one. So I always try to do like the solids first in 1 cup increments, and then I go back and do the broth. And that just ensures everyone's getting an equal amount of protein. As you'll be able to tell, this serves a big serving of chili. I mean, it's a lot. And so you're gonna feel so hearty, and this is you will not go hungry. You might even have a hard time finishing this whole lean and green. Let me finish scooping it up, and then I'll show you how I garnish. Okay, so I have my chili all scooped up, and as you can tell, it's gonna make huge servings. Once it cools off, you can go ahead and dump them into Ziploc bags and freeze them in individual portions, so you have an easy winter meal ready to go in the freezer at a moment's notice. All right, so here's how I garnish. Now, we talked about how each serving has 4 ounces of that ground beef. So I'm gonna do 1 ounce of cheese, as well as 1 ounce of Greek yogurt to complete my lean and green, full lean and green. And then I also like to top it with cilantro and some chopped green onions, just about a tablespoon of each. Guys, this is just about as delicious of a winter meal as you can get. I hope y'all enjoy, and I hope you're not scared to make your own lean and green recipe at home.